In a move that is sending shockwaves throughout the Indo-Pacific region, the Philippines has officially approved the establishment of a new, permanent U.S. military base near Subic Bay. This decision marks a pivotal moment in regional security dynamics and is being closely watched by neighboring countries and global powers alike. It represents the largest expansion of American military presence in the Philippines in over 30 years, reviving a partnership that had once seemed to be fading into history. The announcement, delivered jointly by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and the U.S. Secretary of Defense, signals a dramatic and deliberate shift in Manila's foreign policy. For years, the Philippines has tried to balance its relations between Washington and Beijing, but this move clearly tilts the scales toward a renewed alliance with the United States. President Marcos emphasized that the new base is intended to strengthen the Philippines' own defense capabilities and promote regional stability. He was careful to stress that the facility is not designed to target any specific country, but rather to ensure peace and security for all. The state-of-the-art facility will include a deep-water port capable of hosting aircraft carriers, as well as advanced airfields for the latest generation of U.S. jets. This infrastructure will cement the alliance's strategic depth and enable rapid deployment in times of need. By moving forward with this base, both nations reaffirm their commitment to the U.S. Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty, putting to rest any lingering doubts about Washington's dedication to the region's security. Strategically located, the base gives the U.S. a critical foothold near the contested South China Sea and the sensitive Taiwan Strait, drastically reducing response times in the event of a crisis or conflict. For the Philippines, this is a bold and calculated step to secure its sovereignty and protect its economic interests, especially as regional tensions continue to rise and the stakes grow higher. The message to the world is unmistakable: America is back in the Philippines, and the security landscape of Southeast Asia has been fundamentally transformed by this landmark decision. Ultimately, this decision sets the stage for a new era of strategic competition and cooperation in the Indo-Pacific, with far-reaching implications for the future of the region. Beijing's reaction was immediate and fierce. China's foreign ministry condemned the base, accusing Manila of playing with fire and turning the Philippines into a pawn of U.S. power. Chinese state media called it a betrayal, warning of firm and resolute countermeasures. The People's Liberation Army Navy and Coast Guard ramped up their presence in the South China Sea, with reports of more aggressive maneuvers against Filipino vessels. China launched snap military drills near Philippine waters, flexing its military muscle to intimidate Manila. Economically, Beijing threatened to review investments and restrict trade, leveraging its status as a top Philippine trading partner. The message: Manila cannot expect both U.S. security and Chinese economic largesse. China's response is a mix of military pressure and economic coercion, aiming to force the Philippines to reconsider. The region is now bracing for a period of heightened tension and uncertainty. The Philippines' decision to pivot strategically is deeply rooted in years of mounting frustration with China's assertiveness and aggressive maneuvers. These actions have been particularly evident in the contested waters of the West Philippine Sea, a region of significant geopolitical tension. Despite numerous diplomatic protests and attempts at engagement, these efforts have consistently failed to halt the persistent harassment of Filipino fishermen and vessels by larger Chinese boats. In response, President Marcos Jr. has adopted a notably tougher stance, concluding that only a credible deterrent, such as the establishment of a permanent U.S. military base, could effectively shift the balance of power. The West Philippine Sea's abundant resources are crucial to the Philippines' economy, yet China's expansive territorial claims and aggressive tactics have severely restricted access to these vital areas. The construction of this new base is perceived as a protective security umbrella, empowering the Philippines to better defend its exclusive economic zone and fully exploit its natural resources. Recent assurances from the U.S. have clarified that the Mutual Defense Treaty explicitly covers conflicts in the South China Sea, thereby restoring Manila's confidence in the strength and reliability of the alliance. This base is not merely an American asset, it represents the Philippines' ultimate guarantee of support and assistance in times of crisis. This strategic pivot is a calculated response to China's salami-slicing strategy, and it reflects a significant bet on the reliability of U.S. support. For Manila, this move is fundamentally about survival, asserting sovereignty, and securing a stable and prosperous future for the nation. the Philippines is sending a clear signal to the world that it will no longer be bullied or intimidated in its own territorial waters. Beyond security, the new U.S. base promises a major economic boost for the Philippines. Billions in investment and thousands of jobs are expected, especially in Subic Bay, which has struggled since the original U.S. base closed in 1992. Local communities anticipate revitalization, with new demand for goods, services, and infrastructure upgrades. The Marcos administration is selling the base as an engine of prosperity and post-pandemic recovery. But the economic risks are real. China is already threatening to pull investments and restrict trade, putting Manila in a tough spot. The government must balance U.S. economic benefits against potential losses from a soured relationship with China. Critics warn of overdependence on the U.S. military presence and urge safeguards to ensure broad, sustainable benefits. The economic tug-of-war will fuel domestic debate and shape the base's long-term legacy. For the Philippines, the challenge is to leverage opportunity without sacrificing sovereignty. The stakes are as much economic as they are strategic. The announcement of a new U.S. military base has sent shockwaves through Southeast Asia, exposing deep divisions and anxieties within the ASEAN bloc. The move has not only captured headlines but also sparked intense debate among policymakers and citizens alike, as the region grapples with the implications of growing superpower rivalry. Countries like Vietnam quietly welcome a stronger U.S. presence, seeing it as a crucial counterbalance to China's expanding influence in the South China Sea. For Vietnam, the base represents a potential security guarantee and a way to assert its own sovereignty in contested waters. Meanwhile, Cambodia and Laos voice concern over rising tensions, fearing that increased militarization could destabilize the region and draw them into unwanted conflict. Indonesia and Malaysia adopt a cautious stance, wary of both Chinese assertiveness and U.S. militarization. Both nations emphasize the importance of dialogue and regional solutions, hoping to avoid being caught in the crossfire of great power competition. Most ASEAN members fear being forced to choose sides, a scenario that threatens the bloc's cherished neutrality and unity. The pressure to align with either Washington or Beijing is mounting, putting ASEAN's cohesion to the test. Singapore, a key U.S. partner, sees strategic value in the base but stresses the need for open communication with China to avoid escalation. The city-state continues to walk a fine line, balancing its security interests with its economic ties to both superpowers. The base deepens regional fault lines, making Southeast Asia a new arena for great power rivalry. Military maneuvers and diplomatic posturing are now more frequent, raising the stakes for all involved. ASEAN's goal of centrality and stability is under threat as the U.S.-China competition intensifies. The organization faces unprecedented challenges in maintaining its relevance and leadership in regional affairs. The region is now a front line in the struggle for influence, with every nation recalibrating its strategy and alliances. Leaders are holding urgent meetings, seeking ways to safeguard their interests without alienating either superpower. The Philippines' decision is a turning point, forcing neighbors to rethink their own security and diplomatic postures. The move has set a precedent, prompting other countries to consider similar agreements or to double down on neutrality. The future of Southeast Asia's balance depends on how these shifting alliances play out. As the region stands at a crossroads, the choices made today will shape its stability, prosperity, and independence for years to come. The U.S. Philippines alliance is built on a century of complex history, from colonial rule to Cold War partnership. U.S. bases at Clark and Subic Bay were once critical hubs for American power in Asia, but nationalist backlash led to their closure in 1992. The alliance cooled, then revived in the 2000s, as terrorism and China's rise brought new security challenges. Agreements like the Visiting Forces Agreement and Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement paved the way for renewed U.S. presence. The new base is the latest and most dramatic chapter in this cyclical partnership. It's not a new beginning, but a return to strategic cooperation shaped by changing threats. Subic Bay's selection is both symbolic and strategic. Its deep-water harbor and existing infrastructure make it ideal for rapid deployment and logistics, reviving its Cold War role as a U.S. naval hub. The base's proximity to the South China Sea and Bashi Channel gives the U.S. a launch point for regional contingencies including Taiwan. Integrating the base with the Subic Bay Freeport Zone creates a dual-use model, blending defense and economic activity. Domestic opposition is vocal, citing sovereignty concerns and the risk of entanglement in U.S.-China conflict. The government must manage these sensitivities, ensuring transparency and clear national benefits. The success of Subic's revival depends on both military strategy and political diplomacy. Subic Bay is once again at the heart of Asia's security equation. The new base is a bold move in the Indo-Pacific strategic chess game. It strengthens the U.S. alliance network, complicating China's military planning and raising the stakes in the South China Sea and Taiwan. Beijing will likely accelerate its military buildup, fueling a classic security dilemma and potential arms race. The base also makes it harder for China to isolate Taiwan, forcing Beijing to prepare for multi-front scenarios. China may respond with more pressure on Manila, military, economic or political, to undermine the alliance. The U.S. and its allies must manage this new reality carefully, keeping communication open to avoid miscalculation. The Philippines is now on the front line of great power competition, balancing security needs with economic and political risks. The Indo-Pacific enters a new, more contested era, watched closely by the world. The Philippines' decision has irreversibly altered Southeast Asia's security landscape. While intended to deter aggression, it raises the risk of miscalculation and rapid escalation. The alliance's success depends on maintaining national consensus and delivering tangible benefits to ordinary Filipinos. For the U.S., the base is both a commitment and a responsibility, one that must be backed by consistent support. Washington must also lead in diplomacy, building guardrails with China to prevent open conflict. The new base solidifies the U.S. Philippines alliance but intensifies rivalry with China, placing Southeast Asia at the center of global power politics. The coming years will test the resilience of alliances and the wisdom of leaders as they navigate this new era. The quest for a stable, prosperous Indo-Pacific has entered its most challenging chapter yet,